One thing I thought about starting with here is, all right, I maybe you've seen or maybe you've heard JJ Peterka is the most sought-after man in America.
He is the most talked-about hockey player I have ever seen.
I've got
this is crazy.
2 thoughts.
Every day. Every
thoughts.
day there are 3 things said about him by an insider.
And are all 3 of them from Frank Saravalli?
Two of the 3.
2 of the 3 are Frank Saravalli.
They like to rotate somebody else in. Someone else get a shot in.
Yeah. So yesterday I saw another Frank Saravalli report on Peterka. It was, I expect him to be dealt by Friday.
Yep.
And he changed that to, I'd be shocked to see him in a Sabre jersey by October.
Right.
To which point I have shut down. Like, okay.
It's kind of the same thing.
No, Friday and October are actually not the same thing. Okay. You've had enough, sir. Step away from the Peterka letters on the keyboard. We've had enough. Everybody's had enough of this. But I do have a thought about this that I've not brought up yet. And this is, listen, the Sabres are what they are. We know that sometimes, the conversations about them get tedious and frustrating. But here's their moment to try and get better. The thing on Peterka that I guess I'm latched in on, will they trade him, is because I don't know how they fundamentally change their roster if they don't. How else do they do it? Byram
traded.
Gets you what? Is Byram getting you a lot?
Is Byram just being gone in the first place? Byram played more minutes for them last season than any player. Like that is a, can I call it an addition by subtraction to some degree?
You cannot. No.
I could call it they're changing out. They're at least changing out the player that played more than anybody else on the team last season.
Okay, but he's not supposed to play more than any player on the team because other guys got hurt.
He's supposed to play 20 minutes a night.
All right, well, they're going to trade him out for another guy that is going to play 20 minutes, and it won't fundamentally change who they are. And the other piece is what? Samuelson's going to be bought out? So they're going to I'm almost going to steal here. They're going to trade out Mac Hollins and Amari Cooper for Josh Palmer and Elijah Moore.
I think they play bigger roles than that. They are not great at those roles.
They play bigger roles than Mac Hollins? Didn't he lead all receivers in snaps?
He did.
Okay.
But he wasn't getting the ball the same way. Like, these people will have the puck on their stick a lot. And that's your third and fourth defenseman, really? And Byram played more than Power last year. At least he averaged more ice time, especially at even strength. So I hear you. Like, it's not, you wouldn't expect it to be massive difference unless they actually nail the 2 players that they would replace them for. And what are the odds of that? What are the odds they get significantly better? Like, there's a chance.
There's a chance.
But
anytime you're changing out any player, there's a chance.
But I'd want to be open to a guy that played 23 minutes a night getting rid of last year when there's a lot to signify that he actually wasn't that good. At least there's a lot of advanced numbers that show he actually wasn't that good. If I replace someone who played that much with somebody that maybe is good, I wouldn't want to say that's a fundamental shift of your team, but your team should be better.
That's a great idea. Where are you getting that player? Aren't you doing it by trading Peterka?
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't know how you fundamentally change and become better without trading something of value. And, we can't talk down Byram and then say, they'll just trade him for somebody good because the league might think he's not that good. You're also likely to buy out Matthias Samuelsson. There's a report about that, and we went through it yesterday. That makes sense. I'm down 2 defensemen. The last couple defensemen I have sought after in free agency are Connor Clifton
and
Eric Johnson. I mean, Labushkin. Okay. Right, here we are. How far do I have to go back for Jordan Leopold? Was he a trade?
Oh, so long ago.
It was a long time ago.
You know how long ago is there was a Twitter account called Leopold's iPod that was made in the rounds, and those don't exist anymore. I don't believe iPods exist anymore.
So that's kind of just where I land on this is, you do whatever you want, Sabres, but I don't know how you change what you are without trading someone that you would consider valuable. That's usually the Florida trade that we all love to point to when they were good. They traded Huberdeau off a 100-point season. That's a valuable player, and what did they do? Fundamentally changed what they were. And I just don't know how a middling team like this, who has a really promising, good, young player with lots of term left, and anybody you want him, he'd love to come to you. All right, let's make this happen. You can fundamentally change your team if you trade Peterka. Otherwise, who's the next candidate to be traded that would get you something?
that rates enough to where
you think I might get something good in this trade. What?
You're right, because the reason Byram isn't in that is if the Sabres were to get something that everybody would go, oh, wow, that really helps them, that would come as a surprise, I think. Right? Wouldn't most people say, wow, that team way overpaid for Bo Byram?
Yeah.
If they were to get something back that you would think, okay, that's really going to help them.
And yesterday I said to you, it should be a 2-for-1. 2 guys go out, 1 guy comes in. The only other name I've got here is Kulich. You want to trade Kulich? Is he promising enough to get Byram and Kulich? Byram and Peterka.
Zach Benson?
Sure.
Benson and Kulich. Aren't those the 2 top young players for this idea?
But any idea that you're going to get better this offseason, to me, it's not coming from the draft. We know that. It's very unlikely to come from free agency because, well, reasons. And here we are. The nonstop Peterka rumors. We should have a Peterka rumor fantasy league. Let's draft more teams. Whatever team has not been mentioned, what team will Frank Saravelli have next?
Yesterday was Chicago.
Chicago was a Mad Lib stitched together.
Yeah, that was a funny one.
The 3rd overall pick is somehow in the mix on Peterka. On what level? I mean, I'm sure that Frank has been told all these things, but man, come on. What are we supposed to do with all this?
That was a funny one because it was that they've talked about the 3rd overall pick, but that it hasn't gained traction, which sounds like that means in the Chicago front office it hasn't gained traction, right?
Yeah.
Unless he's meaning the Sabres said no thanks, we don't care about the 3rd pick.
Who knows?
Right, I don't know.
It's so odd. It's so I can't remember a player ever getting that's not exactly like. I mean, he's a nice player. He's a really good player, good young player. Holy cow, he's getting so much attention.
Yeah.
From specifically one insider more than others.
Right. There's a lot of talk about Marner, but that makes sense, right? Because Marner's on his way to being the number 1 free agent. And he is going to change teams in a week. And everybody knows that. That's different than a guy who is still on a roster and is an RFA having this much reported about him. And now we're at Chicago. So yeah, I don't know. I think there are ideas that could be had that would make an impact as much as a Peterka trade would, where you would get something back of value. But are you going to want to trade? You're not going to want to trade Alex Tuck away, right?
No, I don't think so. I think that's probably off the table.
You're not going to want to trade Tage away. Unless you're trying to do, that Huberdeau trade, right? Huberdeau was Tage for Florida, and they said, all right, we're willing to do this because they're in a very different position. They had won the President's Trophy and then got swept in the 2nd round by the team they couldn't beat in the playoffs. So very different reasoning for why they did that. But Huberdeau was their Tage, and they said, okay, we'll do it. We're going to make a massive, massive deal and not be afraid of the consequences and move them. The Sabres could do that, but otherwise, you're right. Peterka would be the one, or I do wonder about Kulich and Benson. They would be the 2 that I would go to right after, because we're ready to win. Both guys have shown real promise, but 21 years old and 20 years old and playing big, meaningful roles for our team. Nah, not this year. We need to be older. We're not going to be the 3rd youngest team in the league again. We're not, going to be relying on kids. Come on. Maybe that's a Kekalainen thing. You are not putting Zach Benson on your 2nd line and Kulich on your 1st line to start the season. Go trade them away and get guys that are 5 years older.
But you don't actually want to do that, do you?
Tell me who the player is.
Right.
I love watching Zach Benson play hockey, and I think it would be very disappointing to see him be traded, but is there an idea out there that I would... If he was the key piece that you needed to deal to get Jason Robertson, I am not saying no to that if I'm the Sabres.
Yeah. Well...
If Kulich is the key piece in a deal that I'm getting Patterson back, they said, okay, yeah, you don't have Cousins anymore. We don't want Norris. We want Kulich. Okay, I'm willing. I'm willing to talk to you about that. I'm willing to do that. That is getting a top-level player for one piece, and then also maybe your core piece in that deal is one of those 2, which I think are your 2 most valuable young players.
The problem is, for those 2 to be your valuable young players, you would be trading them away, and you would still have Peterka here, who, again, go back before all this, who I told you in October, November, I was told he's probably not long for here. So I'm going to trade away Peterka. I'm going to trade away a Benson or a Kulich, and then still be sitting here like, I got this guy that doesn't want to stay. Now, am I going to get to a situation where I'm forced to make a move? Like, the Sabres might not want to, but if it comes down to having to trade one of their young players, they want They want a top 4 defenseman. They want what they thought Samuelsson was going to be for them, but he's not.
Yep.
I just want to find Samuelsson. Okay? I've now traded Kulich for that player, and where am I at center? Where on earth am I at center? I'm Josh Norris.
Tough.
And who's my next best center?
Tage has to play center at
which
that
he
point.
Probably doesn't want to. He probably wants to go back to the wing. I think on the Andy Strickland podcast, he indicated he enjoys the wing. I mean, is Peyton Krebs getting another kick up the lineup? Where are you if you're trading Kulich? You're nowhere.
That's why I mean, but how solid is Tage on I have to play wing? Because if they talk to him and say, hey, we've got a good deal for Kulich, if we do this, you have to play center. It'd be best for the team. We cannot put Peyton Krebs on our second line. We can't. Well, it'd be McLeod, right? It would be Norris and McLeod. But Norris is going to get hurt, right, on Game 5, isn't he? Right. So you'd have to go to Tage and say,
training camp.
How aggressive are you going to be on I got to play wing? Because if we don't have centers,
probably not that aggressive.
We need you to play center. Are you gonna kick and scream, or are you gonna play center for us? Because that would be my mentality. But right, I'm treating it a little bit kind of like a fantasy league here, where I'm kind of saying I don't really care, Peterka, that you don't want to be here. I'm trying to win right now. Get on the ice. And Tage, I don't really care that you want to play wing over center. If that's true, get it center.
But the thing that Tage could say in that scenario, and we're going pretty far down how this actually goes off the rails, which maybe we should dial it back a bit. But if you're Tage and they ask you to play center because of a rash of injuries, it's fine. I'll do what I can for the team. If you're Tage, you need me to go back to center because you cannot ice centers?
Mm-hmm. More than that, even that you're trading away one.
Right. What is happening here?
Right.
How is it that we're already in a rough spot at that position, and it's about to get worse where I have to get called back? Mm-hmm. All right. I feel like that'd be troublesome. It's like Darlene, what sides do you want to play on? Can they make it happen? Does he like this one versus that one? Who's his partner supposed to be?
He goes back and forth.
He has
said he likes the right side more, and you will see him on the left a lot.
Yeah.
But he says he likes the right more. He's more comfortable with it. There's more passing angles available to him. And it does depend on who he plays with. When he plays with Byram, he's playing on the right. But you've seen him play on the left at times. So that's different than...
It's the same kind of thing to me. How many years do you have to figure out left and right where I can be in a spot and be where everybody's happy?
Well, he hasn't had a partner that's... That's the problem. Samuelsson was supposed to be the thing that would allow him to play the right forever. And he didn't do that. He got hurt, and he kind of fell off, and that was it. So, I don't know, I got to cater to everybody's tiniest whim and wish.
These aren't whims. This is building a roster. And you are 2 cornerstone pieces that think they have, I got a spot, I'm good, I do my job, and they keep coming back to you and saying, listen, I'm sorry, I didn't get any centers this year or the last year or the last year, I just need I need you to do more again. Isn't that how you lose players? Isn't that how guys like Reinhardt and Eichel they ultimately leave because
they want to win though.
They do want to win. There's no doubt they want to win. But you've got an organizational idea, and the GM is supposed to build a roster. And if another year happens where I'm going back to you and being like, listen, hey, good player, I didn't get it.
But if you're saying, and I don't know who this defenseman would be, but if you're going to him or if you're not willing to make a trade, not able to make a trade for some star defenseman because you can't trade Jiri Kulich because Tage doesn't want to play center anymore.
Well, I wouldn't do that.
That doesn't make your team better. That actually actively prevents you from making your team better. Your roster building of getting to the playoffs is now become harder because you don't have as much flexibility.
But star defenseman does a lot of work right there.
Sure. Star winger, too. It could be that.
Sure. Right.
But somebody that would ask him to go back to playing the middle on a full-time basis. Because you're right. I don't want to go to Norris and McLeod as my top 2 centermen. That sounds like a disaster. Although they're not really that far off from that anyway. They're already kind of there, aren't they?
Pretty much, yeah.
Like Kulich's going to be 20, and he'll probably be the second guy, but I mean, those are your three centers.